Hi, Dr. Willow Brown. Welcome to the High Vibration Living Podcast.
Hi, Whitney. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you. I'm hoping that we get to dive into some nutrition since it is one of your primary topics and sort of one of my side topics.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love actually learning about how food plays a role in our sex life, how food plays a role with our hormones. So yes, we're definitely going to go there. I want to start by understanding your work as a medicine doctor, acupuncturist, Taoist sexologist. How do all those three things that you've studied in, are a big part of who you are? How does that play a role in your work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a Chinese medicine doctor, not a medical doctor, but I have studied a lot of functional medicine in addition to Chinese medicine. And functional medicine is sort of a new burgeoning, it's not that new anymore, but it's this style of medicine that anyone can study. Medical doctors, Chinese medicine doctors, naturopaths, anyone from the really like alternative path to the really, Western path can be all about the functional medicine that can bring that into their practice. And so functional medicine is what I use a lot when I'm looking at people's hormones. As a Chinese medicine doctor, I look at everything through the lens of Taoism. And so a lot of us don't really even know what that is. We may have heard of Buddhism and we may have meditated before, but we may not really understand what Taoism is. And, possibly we've heard the Tao is the way. I know that much. The Tao is the way. Okay, well, what is the way? The way is the way of nature. And so we're looking to align our bodies, our systems within the endocrine system, the immune system, menstrual system, all of these different sleep cycles, all these different cycles in our body. We want to align them with nature. And so I've always seen our bodies as not just part of nature, but actually as nature itself. So we all have the same seasons moving through our bodies that the earth has. Winter, spring, summer, fall. The earth gets to move through those. And as the earthlings, we get to move through those as well. And we move through those 4 seasons in a very short time. The earth, this big, beautiful body, has a whole year to move through those seasons. And we tiny little beings, we have 1 month to move through those same 4 seasons. And if you want to break it down even further, we move through those same 4 seasons in a single day, in a single breath. And so, the Tao is really this sort of like, it's a bit quantum, it's inside of everything that we do, and it's made up of yin and yang. So expansion and contraction, yang being masculine, bright, structure, tangible, yin being feminine, contractive, dark, related to the moon, all these different things that we think of as yin and yang. And so there's this, polarity or this duality of, is it expanding or is it contracting? Can it do both at the same time? That's the sort of paradox of Taoism, is that if it is expanding, there's also a contraction happening simultaneously. And so our bodies are doing that constantly. And we have no real concept of it. And we're not really thinking about it because our bodies just do it by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we start to align our lives, what we're eating throughout the day, how we're mapping out our month, according to these expansions and contractions, then we are living in the way. We're living in the way of the Tao. And then we have a lot more energy and a lot more capacity for all the things that the world is throwing at us these days.
Absolutely. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you work with clients?
Yeah, I work with clients in all different capacities. I work with them online. I work with them in person. I do a lot around sexual healing work. So sometimes I'll get on for half an hour and do a nutrition consult with a client. Other times I'll do a 2 or 3 day retreat with a client where we will go through tantric exercises, healing old sexual trauma, bringing them to greater states of pleasure and eroticism within their bodies, teaching them how to eat, doing acupuncture, cranial sacral sessions on them. So it's pretty vast. It can go from, just a consult in your nutrition to let's do a deep dive with you. And that's really the gamut of what's possible. I also
So,
have
yeah.
online courses and membership courses for women who are like, I just want to like get my toes wet, like I want to learn a little bit, but I'm not ready for the full Monty. So there's so many opportunities.
So, what is it that a client is sharing with you that makes you think that they need to learn about some tantric practices in order to be a healthier version of themselves?
Yeah, that's such a good question. A lot of times these days people come to me because I am a sexpert in the wellness field, and they are looking to, it could be anything, men looking to heal erectile dysfunction, women looking to find their libidos again. Other women are like, I don't know what to do with all this sexual energy. How do I channel it? Where do I put it? So it really is so individual why people come. And it's always just fun to connect with a person and figure out what's the missing piece to their puzzle or pieces that I can support them with so that they can feel more whole within themselves.
What is it? What is the common theme that you see is the misconception about sex and their sexual health?
Yeah, I think a lot of people they don't really equate their endocrine systems to their libidos. They don't really think like, wow, my hormones are out of whack and that's related to my low sex drive. Or I mean, a lot of times they don't equate it. Yeah, they definitely are not seeing the correlation between, I know I'm the same as you. Really? You're not seeing that? A lot of times they won't see the correlation between their adrenal glands, so the place where they have their stress response,
Yeah.
and the way that their, hormones are dysregulating from that stress response and how they are then feeling in their lives. Like your hormones definitely have a relationship to your emotions and the way that you feel and your capacity to be with stressful situations or with joyful situations. Some people could be thrown into really wonderful, amazing, magical situation and not be able to appreciate it at all because they haven't cultivated the capacity to experience joy and pleasure in their bodies, potentially based on and due to having a long standing, relationship with cortisol where they're just tight. The nervous system is always tight.
What do you say to clients who come to you and you've recognized, okay, we have an adrenal and hormone issue and that's causing your low libido? And their response is, no, I've had my hormones checked. Everything's fine.
Yeah, it's such a fun one when I'm like, okay, here we go. Here we go. I'm
Yeah,
not
right? Because
I
everyone is always like, no, 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 I've had the blood work done.
mhm,
I'm normal.
yeah.
But I mean, I understand and you do that blood work
And
isn't
there's
the be all end all.
Yes, and there's different ways of even reading blood labs,
Mhm.
and so the way that I've been trained to look at lab work is very different than a medical doctor. And so I'm looking for relationships, within the markers, like how well are you processing your sugars? Is your blood sugar levels like kind of always on the edge of not processing well? How are you handling, again, sugars, carbohydrate intake, all of that. And then what's going on with your selenium and your copper? Those are going to be a big relationship to the way your libido feels. So, yes, there's reading labs differently. That's one thing. But then there's also, when we're looking through the lens of Chinese medicine and Taoism, we're actually looking at, is there a deficiency in the sexual center of the body, which is the
Mhm.
kidneys and the adrenal glands? That's where sexual energy is stored, according to the Tao, according to Chinese medicine. And we can feel that in the pulses, and we can see that in the tongue. And we can feel like, okay, your labs might look great, but you are fatigued and you don't have the chi. There's a deep underlying deficiency here. The energy isn't there. And so a lot of times when the energy isn't there, it's actually there, but we need to lift off the heavy, wet blankets of whatever it is,
Yeah.
stress or food, or, it could be screen time, could be not sleeping well, could be all these heavy, wet blankets we need to delayer so that the energy can rise again, it can resurface, and you can come
Yeah.
back to life.
So you because we have too much wetness on the fire, so the fire can't burn.
Yes.
Too much dampness, I should
Yeah.
say. Damp is the word that's always used in Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
So, what are the practices that we can be incorporating into like our self-care practice, or that we can be doing in the evenings at home, or when we first get up in the morning, that can nourish our kidneys and
Yeah.
nourish our adrenals?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you one of my favorite breath practices. It's the foundation. This breath practice is actually the foundation to all the other Taoist sexual practices. And Taoist sexual practices are similar, but not exactly the same as tantric practices. So there's more of a relationship to moving arousal energy, moving breath energy, moving food energy or air energy, all these different kinds of qi. In Chinese medicine, there's 5 different kinds of qi. So we want to move these different kinds of qi into our organ systems and into our glands. And so I'll give you right now the foundational breath work to all of this practice, to moving sexual energy through your body, which is called, they call it turtle breathing, or you could call it kidney breathing as well. The ancient Taoists didn't have Instagram and TikTok, so they watched nature instead, and they were watching the animals and how the animals were, wow, those turtles, they live a long time. What are they doing? And they would watch the way they breathed, and they would see this really slow rise and fall, these long, slow, deep breaths, and the turtle shell would rise and fall. And, they watch the deer. There's something called the deer exercises. There's crane exercises. There's all these different animal, exercises within the Taoist tradition. And so turtle breathing is where you imagine that you have a turtle shell on your back, or you could also think about it like having 2 balloons on either side of your spine on your lower back.
Mm-hmm.
So your kidneys are actually up under the rib cage. They're a little bit higher because the ribs want to protect the kidneys. But the points and the place that we breathe is about a hand width down from there, where there is no rib cage. So right there in the small of your back, that fleshy part, just imagine that you've got 2 balloons there, or a turtle shell on your back. And as you inhale, you're going to push that turtle shell toward the wall behind you, kind of like a reverse yoga breath. And as you exhale, the shell comes back toward your spine. Next inhale, pushing that turtle shell toward the wall behind you. Exhale, let it come back toward your spine. You can use a little abdominal strength as you inhale and push the lower back toward the wall behind you. And on your next inhale, bring so much space into your lower back that you can feel, or imagine that you feel, the adrenal glands lift right up off of the kidneys. As you exhale, go all the way down to the very, very bottom of your exhale. Squeeze all the stale air out from the bottom of the lungs. Next inhale, bring so much space into the lower back that those adrenals that are now floating right up off of the kidneys start to expand and fill, almost like sponges in water, just soaking in the qi from all around you, from nature, from the trees, from any waters that are nearby, from the air. And we'll just take one more breath like that. Just plumping up and juicing up those adrenal glands. A lot of times, they come as shriveled up little raisins, but we start to do these breath practices and slow down the mind and slow down the breath. And those adrenal glands get to juice up and plump right up. And I like to also just ask your adrenals in this moment, since you're connected to them, ask them if they have a message for you. Is there something they want you to know?
And say slow down.
That's a common one. Yeah. Slow down. We all need to slow down, especially in winter, which is the season of the kidneys and the adrenals.
Is it really?
Yeah. So each one of the organ systems is related to a season. And each one of those seasons, as I was speaking with you earlier about before we pressed record, is related to a moon cycle phase. So the new moon would be that time of winter. So, I have worked with women historically for a very long time and have done all kinds of work with women and their hormones and fertility and perimenopause, postmenopause. And the adrenals are the foundation to your entire endocrine system. So we really need to treat those first. Then we can look at thyroid, we can look at ovaries, we can look at some, other places along the chain. But the can think about the adrenals as these as the foundation. And how many of us are just running around dumping cortisol constantly because of the to-do list and the lack of time and so much going on, and not having the time to really spend being connected to nature, especially the nature within ourselves. So when a woman is in her fertility years still, meaning she still has a regular menstrual cycle, she is having that winter season of her monthly cycle while she's bleeding. So if you're still having a menstrual cycle, you follow the moon cycle in your womb moon cycle. If you're in peri, you don't know where your cycle's going, it's kind of erratic and all over the place, or you're in postmenopause, or you're a man, or you're a child, or you're a dog, or you're anything made up of water, you just follow the moon in the sky, because we all have a moon cycle. We all are being pulled. The moon pulls on the waters, not only of the earth, but of our bodies. And so, that new moon phase, it's the time of hibernation, of going in, of calibrating. At the time that we're recording this, y'all, it is winter. We're heading toward the Christmas season. And this is a time of the year when we should just be doing so much less. We should be in hibernation. We should be sleeping more, taking more time, taking more care of ourselves. But instead, we get super busy running around, shopping, stuff, going to Christmas parties, making extra sugary foods, just doing the total opposite of what nature intended.
Yeah, absolutely. What are other things that we can be doing to nourish our adrenals in the wintertime?
Well, there's great herbs, ashwagandha, rhamania, eleuthero, any of the adaptogenics, cordyceps, any of the lion's mane, any of those mushrooms are going to be really, really useful, especially in the winter. And then doing bone broth. I do bone broth all year long, but it's particularly in the winter. And adding kombu, like a kelp kombu or some other kind of kelp to your bone broth so that you're infusing that bone broth with iodine, because it's really important for the thyroid, which is related to the adrenals. And it's also incredibly helpful for breast health and for womb health as well. So those are some things you can do. There's so many other things as well. I would say, like staying warm, doing less, sleeping longer, listening to your adrenal glands when they say slow down or be more gentle with yourself today. Each one of the organ systems also holds an emotional state. And so for the kidneys, it's more of this fear, like, oh, if I don't get everything done, something bad's going to happen. Or if I don't fulfill this thing that I think I want or need, I'm not going to be complete. There's so many different fears that we can have as human beings, and those fears make us constrict, they make us stress, they make us dump cortisol, they make us emotional. And the antidote to that fear is gentleness. Can we just be gentle with ourselves? Can we just be patient with ourselves? And I'm talking to myself just as much as just sharing with you all. It's a practice and a journey that each of us is on in our own way.
Is there something that we can be doing with our diet or lifestyle so our body isn't producing as much cortisol?
Having orgasms. Yeah, that's what you could be doing. You can be having an O a day, because vitamin O is not just a big fat orgasm, but it's oxytocin. So when you have an orgasm, you flood your bloodstream with oxytocin. Hormones are like little messengers. They run up and down the bloodstream from gland to gland, telling the whole body, telling those master glands in the brain what to do next. When cortisol is running up and down through the bloodstream, it's like there's this constriction and this tightness and this lack. I keep using the word capacity, but that's really what it is. Like you just don't have any more space inside of you for anything. Yeah. And especially sex, like get that thing away from me. So oxytocin. So to break the cycle, the fastest way to break the cycle is to flood your system with oxytocin. Now, you could do that from a cuddle session. You could do that from a really good hug from a friend. You can do it, cuddling with your pet. Like you can get oxytocin doses in many different ways. But orgasms are, it's been proven that they flood your system with oxytocin, and they make you feel, oxytocin's that hormone that makes you feel connected and open, like anything's possible. And all those things you were stressing about, what were they anyway? You drop right into the present moment.
So how can sex improve our health beyond just
In so many
reducing
ways.
the stress?
Yeah, in so many ways. It's amazing for your heart. It's amazing for your mind. It's amazing for your sleep because when we are like clearing the cortisol, sometimes you lay in bed at night and you're like, I can't turn off my mind. I've got monkey mind. I wish there was a switch for this thing. There is a switch. It's called an orgasm. So for you ladies out there, usually clitoral orgasms are the easiest go-to. Fine, go to it. There are many other kinds of orgasms that women can have. There are 4 major nerve pathways that go up to the brain that carry orgasmic pleasure and make the brain light up. And so, however you want to have your orgasm is great. And for men, having an ejaculatory release orgasm is fantastic. It's definitely going to give you that release of stress. But be sure as a man that you're not just going to, like if you're in a heterosexual relationship, that you're not just going to deposit that stress into your partner's body just so you can roll over and go to sleep. If you're doing that, no wonder she's not that interested in sex. You've got to bring more consciousness to your sexual experience. And as far as the orgasms go for men, I love to teach men how to have non-ejaculatory orgasms, which ends up being a lot more like a full body gasm. So there's this channel in the center of the body. It's called the Sushumna Nadi. So nadi means channel. And it's kind of like, we also call it the Tai Chi pole or the central column of light. And it runs from the perineum to the crown. It's that channel that the chakras come off of. So it's a really important channel to run erotic energy through. And so as you're getting closer and closer to the climax of your orgasm, you do the upward draw, what we call the orgasmic upward draw. And you start to bring that orgasmic energy, instead of shooting it out the penis, we bring it up through the central column, bring it up into the brain. And you can have pineal gland gasms, pituitary hypothalamus, brain gasms are really powerful. Throat gasms, heart gasms, all these different gasms in the body, we call them superior orgasms because they are not just going out the genitals. And it's the same thing for women. We can really ride that higher level of erotic energy. We use a scale, like 1 being like, I'm relaxed, it feels nice, 10 being like, oh my God, I'm about to come, And so if we can ride an 8 or a 9 for a longer period of time, we're going to be bringing so much more circulation, so much more vitality, so much more hope and joy and pleasure to our brains and our bodies that health can't help but ensue.
Yeah, it's just a better Kundalini practice.
Exactly.
And if anyone's listening to this and they're kind of thrown off by what we're talking about, just start exploring Kundalini yoga. And they're all health practices. It's all moving the energy up your spine. And so if you can do that in a simple meditation, or by doing that by repeating a mantra and holding your hands a certain way, it can benefit your love life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then ultimately your physical life, and then your love life, and then your physical life. And like, it just keeps going around and around in the circle.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't why not learn this? This is like our natural medicine that our body can produce for us.
Yeah, it is. In fact, I have written a book called Sex as Medicine, and it really is all about how you can utilize your arousal energy, your sexual energy to balance, heal your endocrine system, as well as bring more energy to different organ systems in your body that are really related to your libido, your drive, your sexuality, your creativity. The most important sexual energy in your body is right between your ears, so we really want to be able to awaken our creativity around that. And part of the practice there is letting go of the taboos and society's, all these constructs around sexuality that are really not freeing us up to explore our bodies from a place of love.
You mentioned that there are 4 different ways that women can have orgasms. What are the 3 other ways?
So there's 4 nerve pathways. There's more than 4 ways a woman can have an orgasm, but the 4 nerve pathways are the pudendal nerve, which runs from the clitoris up to the brain, the pelvic nerve, which runs from the G-spot up to the brain, the hypogastric nerve runs from the anus to the brain, And then the vagus nerve runs kind of mid stomach. There's some nerves are like a tree roots, it's like a nerve plexus. It's not like one single nerve. So these nerve plexuses, they all kind of like roots of a tree, they all come together. And the vagus nerve runs right up through that front central part of the body. And it connects to your gut, it connects to your heart, it connects to your thyroid gland, it connects to all these different things in your body, so that when you have a vagus nerve gasm, which could potentially, usually in my experience, they come from cervical orgasms. Those are just really opening, really phenomenal, really high experiences. That's where you can kind of touch the infinite through your sexuality, is through those vagus nerve release gasms. If you've ever had an orgasm and just started bawling afterwards, just for no reason, with no story behind it, but just the tears start coming, and it's just this incredible relief, you probably hit the vagus nerve and had a vagal nerve gasm.
Interesting. Now, are there foods that people should be eating or preparing for a dinner or for a lunch
Yeah.
if they want to be having better sex?
Yeah, definitely foods high in zinc, high in selenium. Those are like oysters, what are the Brazil nuts, things like that. So what I did write once upon a time, many years ago, was a cookbook on how to eat right for your hormones. Now, this is an old version of it. I used to call it the Taoist Cycles Cookbook, and nobody knows what the hell that means. So I changed my marketing strategy on that. It is now called Eat Right for Your Hormones Cookbook. However, I don't have that copy on me right now. But inside of the cookbook, there is what you would eat for each week of the month based on those ebbs and flows of your hormonal levels. So it is more geared toward women in their fertility years. I've helped women who were told they absolutely will not be able to get pregnant naturally. No way, no how. They're going to have to do IVF. They're going to have to do art therapy. But they instead ate from this cookbook and fed their husbands from this cookbook and followed the plan and ate from those different recipes and those different food groups for each week of the month and got pregnant naturally. So there is so much to be said for food as medicine. Like, it's the same as sex as medicine. It's these things that we already have so much access to, and we just need to learn how to utilize them properly.
So when a man and a woman are in union, does that man's essentially cycle sync with her moon cycle?
Yeah, I would say, generally, yes. And a man is going to have not such a severe moon cycle, but it's still there. Like, if he starts to pay attention, I've had lots of male clients. I'm like, do you
Yeah.
mind filling this out and like writing down how you're feeling when it comes to the full moon, when it comes to the new moon? And
Yeah.
their energy is higher during the full moon and their energy is lower during the new moon. And so really paying attention to those seasons that we go through every single month as human beings can really just give you so much more of a sense of control in your life and in your body. When you have a big creative project that you need to get done in the next month or two, don't do it when you're in your winter phase. Do it when you're in your spring and summer phases,
Yeah. Don't do it. Don't have it scheduled for when you're on your period.
That's
Like,
right. Yeah.
because you need to rest
Yeah.
and you don't have the energy. And that's when we get into the guilt of resting. And then that's when our body gets out of sync.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the winter phase is the phase that everyone misses, because before winter comes fall, and fall is all about clearing and letting go and releasing. And those are hard things to do for sure, but people can do them. The winter is a non-doing, it's a time. So I use the 4 C's to kind of, explain these 4 seasons, 4 phases of the moon cycle. So we clear in the fall, then we calibrate in the winter. Who am I with all that shit that I just let go of? Limiting beliefs, sugar, panties from 1999, whatever you just let go of, who are you without them? Take the time in the winter. That's the phase that gets missed. And that's where spirit speaks to you and says, okay, here's what you're going to create next. Clear, calibrate, create, cultivate. And then when you're creating and cultivating from that deep place of the winter, because it's just the reason we miss it is because it's not valued. It's the most yin season in our society, and our society values yang, productivity, get shit done. How much did you get done on your checklist today? What did you accomplish? What degrees do you have? All the things, right? I mean, and I'm a very driven yang person, but it's so important to drop into that yin every single day, and especially those days where either you're in the new moon in the sky or new moon in your womb when you're on your cycle.
Yeah, my dream is to be able to fully take advantage of what they call the 12 days of Christmas. You know, the time between Christmas and New Year's, where if you go to Europe, nobody does anything.
Everything's shut down. Yeah.
Everything's just down. I was visiting a friend in Ireland, and I was asking him about his Christmas traditions. He's like, I go home to my parents' house.
Yeah.
I was like, he's like, everybody goes home
Yeah.
to their parents' house. And you don't do anything between Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah.
Like, you literally stay at home the whole time. And now that just sounds like a dream.
I know, totally. I mean,
you have that rest period for your whole physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental body.
It's so crucial. So crucial.
When we think about our cycles within the 28 days, is there a moon cycle? Is there a cycle within the 28 days that's best for sex?
Yeah. So a lot of what I've written in the Sex as Medicine book, which isn't quite published yet, we're on our way there, is how to use different sexual practices at different times of your cycle based on your hormones. Because there's going to be times when more foreplay and more slow buildup and more, maybe more cuddling, more foreplay is going to be required, whereas there's going to be other times when you're just going to be ripe and ready to go,
Yeah,
and this is all after clearing sexual traumas and limiting beliefs and all those kinds of things. But you can do all of those simultaneously. So that's what I love about this system, is it's very holistic. Like, you can come in at whatever stage in the game you're at. Maybe you're carrying a bunch of old sexual trauma. Maybe you're stuck in limiting beliefs around your sexuality. Maybe your adrenals are in the dumps. Maybe you are eating way too much sugar and drinking coffee all day and wine to wind down at night. That's all good. You still can come into the system and you can begin to unravel it month by month, because it's that first month is, okay, what do you want to clear? What do you want to let go of? Okay, I just want to clear coffee. I'm just going to clear that one thing. That might be a big thing for some people to start with, but I'm just going to clear this one, sugar. I'm going to just clear that one little thing, or I'm going to clear this limiting belief. I'm just going to clear one piece of what's kind of in my way. One of those heavy wet blankets. I'm going to take one off this month. And then I'm going to sit in the week of, who am I without that? Because it can be uncomfortable to sit there in who am I without that. That's been a really good friend and a really good vice and a really good distraction for a really long time for you. So who are you without that? You've got to find that out, that winter phase. So clearing, calibrating, creating. Listen, when you're in that calibrating phase, what's spirit telling you? What are your adrenals telling you? What's spirit telling you through your adrenal glands? What is the next step? And then you get the message, and then you begin to create as estrogen levels start to rise. So you get, your energy is rising for that. It is rising, and the spring is coming, and you start to create that next piece. Oh, here's who I want to be stepping into. Somebody who's articulate, somebody who has vision or clarity or whatever it is that you want to step into. And then you get to cultivate that in the summertime. Think about summer like the harvest, like kind of like the late summer, picking apples and enjoying the fruits of your labor. And then the next cycle comes around. All right, I cleared that. So is there any more that I need to clear of that? Just a little bit more. I'm going to clear a little bit more, and I'm going to pick up this next wet blanket and I'm going to clear that too. And so that's how, over a period of 9 to 12 months, you can absolutely 100% transform yourself.
Do you teach people that sexual energy creates more creative energy? I feel like the nomer is that sexual energy is dangerous when sexual energy is your creative source. It's powerful. It's what you need to create, to be creative, to move through life, to build a career, to build art. It is the foundation of that. So how do you approach people and clients who have this idea that they feel bad because they have sexual energy?
Yeah, such a good question. I don't really have people come to me who are like, I feel bad because I have sexual energy. If anything, they're like, I just have so much, I don't know what to do with it. Or they're more like, I don't have, usually it's more like, what, I don't have any. If it's women, usually they don't have any. If it's men, a lot of times they're like, I need to learn how to manage this better.
Really?
Yeah. And so, I would say that like really learning how to, so in Chinese medicine, there's a word that I mentioned before, there's 5 different kinds of qi in Chinese medicine. And if you're not familiar with qi is energy of life. It's the energy that is in the trees, it's in the rocks, it's in the ocean, it's in your body, it's all over. It's the qi that creates life. And Qi is sort of more like you can play with qi when you're doing qigong. So that's another thing that I teach people how to do is move energy through their bodies, cycle energy through their meridian systems. When you know how to do that with just regular old qi, it's a lot easier to do it with jing qi. Jing qi is sexual energy, and jing translates to essence. So essence. This is a thing that a lot of times when people first come to me, I'll get them in touch with. Who is your essence? What is your essence? How does your essence move through your body and through the world? Because so many of us are so disconnected from our essence because we're trying to look outside of ourselves to get all these things in order to feel like we're at some kind of success in life. The real true success is in having a deep relationship with your essence. And so when you have a deep relationship with your essence, it's so much easier to have a deep relationship with your sexuality, your sexual energy. And there's a lot less shame around it. There's a lot less guilt around it. There's so much more openness and freedom to just play with the playground of your body, with this field of vast energy that is so juicy and so thick and so fun to play with and so creative. It is the most potent creative energy that we have access to. It's what creates a whole new life. It creates a whole new human being. So what could be more creative than that? And if it could create a whole new life, then what new life do you want to create for yourself? How can you use your sexual energy to create a new reality for yourself? And using this, what I call it the ancient wisdom approach, is these 4 phases of the moon cycle. So using that approach, you can really create whatever you want in your life, whether it is, a career path, financial freedom, partnership, home, health. It's all available to you. It's just a matter of using what energy you do have in your system in order to create that.
How do we do that? What books or guidance do you recommend that we tune into to be able to figure out how to channel it and bring it to life?
Yeah, come work with me or pick up my book as soon as it's published because no one else is teaching it this way that I have found.
Who have been your greatest teachers in this realm?
I love this question because it's such I've had so many teachers along the way, Chinese medicine teachers, functional medicine teachers, Taoist teachers, meditation teachers, so many different ones along the path. And my very best teacher has always been my body. Through 100%. That's where I learn the most. And then I teach from that place,
Yeah.
and then teaching is a great teacher as well. So that's, I've read gajillion books and all the things and pieced it all together the way that I've, through this methodology that's come together from a lot of different places, but really being in practice with it continually and consistently throughout my life. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't fall off the wagon. Just because I fall off the wagon doesn't mean that I'm not consistent and continual, right? It's like that's part of the journey. That's part of the expansion and contraction. And we have to be really gentle with ourselves when we fall off the wagon. It's like maybe we do a big cleanse once a year, but then we go right back to all the dairy and the sugar and the coffee and all the things, But over time, isn't your diet improving a little bit more each year that you do that cleanse?
Yeah, because your body just evolves in a way and you evolve emotionally that the things that used to serve you no longer do it. And
Right.
so those things naturally fall away.
Exactly. Yeah. And you discover new things to do. It's the same inside of sexuality. You're going to discover if you do, let's say you come and work with me for 3 months and we give you all these practices and you start to implement them, you start to do them. I mean, you're not going to go back to the way sex was before because you're going to have all these new fun things to play with and you're
Yeah.
going to make them your own. I might give them to you in a certain way. Here's how the Taoists do it. Here's how it's worked in my body. Here's how it's worked in other people's body that I've worked with. You find your own way. Do this practice and keep doing it until it does you.
Fascinating. Do you mainly work with people individually, couples, or is it pretty?
All of the above. Yeah.
And is there a theme to why people are coming to you right now?
I would say a lot of people come because, I would say a lot of women want to come for healing. And so I'll do, anything from pelvic floor work on them to, hormonal health, whatever is sort of up and whatever they need. And then men, I feel like they are often coming to learn how to cultivate their sexual energy better instead of just like, men as they're teenage boys, they just learn how to get it up and get it off. They don't really learn how to run energy, that arousal chi up to their heart or up to their throat or up to their pineal gland. And so a lot of men want to learn how to do that. And
God.
say again.
I said, thank God.
Thank God.
I find most women I talk to, most of my friends, they're finding that the men that they're dating or in relationships with, they just don't want to have sex.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's so much. Here's what we learn about sex. And I think that's what it is. And like, here's what's possible with sex.
Yeah.
We get very myopic. And we also, one of the reasons we get very myopic is because there's this, because orgasms feel great, let's face it, no matter what kind you're having or how you're going about it, they feel good. And so when we are having sex, we all want to have a big O at the end, and so that becomes sort of a goal. It becomes sort of a finish line, a success point. Like, wow, we came together, or wow, she had an orgasm, success. If we can, and so what happens is we're like, well, this is how I know I can have an orgasm. This is the position. This is the level of friction. This is the frequency. This is the place in the house, and so we get into ruts. We get into ruts with orgasms. My business partner, Leah, because we have a podcast called Sex Reimagined. Check it out, y'all. Leah will talk about orgasm lake, and like we all want to go there. But, if we know this one track to getting there, then we're going to pretty much be going that one track until we're in a ditch. We've dug ourselves and we can't see anything outside of that ditch. We have no idea how to find any other pathway to orgasm lake whilst there are thousands of other pathways. And so one of the things that we teach is a tantric practice, which is all about having a intimacy date or an erotic play date with your partner, with yourself, with some friend. You don't have to be in a relationship to have these erotic play dates. Having one of these where it's like one of you is the giver and one of you is the receiver. And that really allows the one who's receiving to just experience pleasure in your body without any expectation of orgasm. So these erotic play dates, generally, intercourse is off the table. Like, that's not a goal.
Yeah.
That's not a thing you're going for. You're not trying to get to an orgasm. You're not trying to get to intercourse. You're just exploring the body, because there's all these different erogenous zones on the body that get passed over and overlooked simply because people don't know about them, or they're just not taking the time to explore them. As the giver, you get to discover all kinds of things about your partner's body or your friend's body and what it feels like to really give from a place of deep, deep presence rather than from a place of like, I'm giving to get. I'm giving to be some kind of success in the bedroom, or I'm giving so that I can get back, and it's a very different, there's more receptivity that you can experience in your giving when you're giving from a place of deep, deep presence. So a lot of times when I'm training people, like with couples, or sometimes working with a single man, sometimes with a single woman, although that's less rare, but I will be training them to touch and give where all of their awareness is right between their palm and their partner's body. All of their focus, all of their attention is right there. Because so often people are going like this and they're just talking about other things and they're not paying attention and they're just not present in their hands. So we want to bring that presence from the heart through the rivers of the arms into the palms.
Yeah, because I'm a chef, I'm very intentional with how I use my hands.
Yeah.
So whether I'm cooking or I'm spending time with someone I'm in a relationship with, I'll imagine the green light from my heart chakra moving down my arms into my hands, releasing that love into the person.
I love
Now,
that.
I do that because of my years of studying spirituality, and I understand how my hands can transmute energy, frequency, thought into another person, into a meal. And I really want more people to learn that so more people can feel loved by the person that they're with.
Yes. Oh my God. Hallelujah. Yes, please. More of that. Everybody. Put it from your heart into your hands and your food and your partner's body, in your own body, your puppy's body, whatever, whoever you're touching, whatever you're touching, your car steering wheel, like consciousness, presence, bring your attention to what you're doing. Sometimes like I get real deep into presence practices, and sometimes I'm like, this is boring. There is a mundaneness to that level of practice. And so you have to kind of cultivate your ability to not be looking for some exciting distraction in order to actually be in deep presence. And then you kind of go through this little portal of, oh, this is just kind of boring. It's a little mundane. I'm just doing the same thing I always did, but I'm bringing this presence to it. Okay. But then you go through that do. And on the other side, you're like, damn. It's like I've never done this before, it's like this is a whole new experience. So it doesn't mean you can't still have the same sex you've always had. You can still do it in the bed with the door closed and the lights off and the quick rub down. You can have that. But can you bring a different level of presence to it? It will be a totally different experience.
Yeah. And then it's fun just to see how will they react.
Yeah.
So if you just change your mindset, you don't need to tell anybody.
Yes.
How will it change the experience that they're going to have? So if I change my mindset when I go to cook for a client, when I go to cook for a friend or a family member, and I have a particular intention in mind whenever I touch anything having to do with the dish.
Yes.
It's really fun to see what's the outcome they're going to have.
Mm-hmm.
So I like setting the intention is I will tell the food when this person eats it, I want them to feel this way. I want that to be so strong that they feel that way, they can't deny it. And so then I'll ask them when we're eating the meal, how does it make you feel?
Yeah.
And they will respond with the words that I gave the food.
Yes, of course they will. Intention is everything.
It is fascinating. So I like experimenting with touch in that way is how can I move the energy from my body? How can I see myself move it? How, when I put my hand on someone, if I have a particular intention of how they feel, how will that transfer into them? Will they be able to feel that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And only time will tell, if they open up to me and communicate, that's how they feel when I'm with them.
Right.
But I just think it's a fun experiment. So if people brought this consciousness into the bedroom or into relationship or their playtime, it doesn't have to be scary or intimidating or woo-woo.
No.
It could just be like just a more elevated experience. And isn't that like the whole point?
Yes, that is the whole point. Is to expand. Tantra is a Sanskrit word. It means tool for expansion. Tan is expansion, not tantra, y'all. Tantra. It's expansion, and tra is a tool or a weaving. So it's a weaving of expansion into your life. And with every expansion comes a contraction. But it's all in the name of a greater expansion. It's all in the name of a greater evolution. You hear that saying, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, two
Yes.
steps forward, 1 step back, and it's like sometimes it feels like we're not really getting anywhere, but we are. And so we have to trust that there's a bigger and a greater evolution at play inside of us and all around us. And then we can live a tantric life. We can live that high consciousness. Exactly what you're doing with your clients is tantric chefing, That's what you're doing.
They're so lucky.
They are so lucky. I want you to come chef for me.
Well, I would love for you to share where people can continue to learn from you and connect with you.
Yeah, so the best place to learn is on our podcast, sexreimagined.com. There's so much great, free, amazing content and conversations on there. We interview other sexperts. Leah and I just yammer on together sometimes. And so there's so much that you can learn there. And then you could go to my website, drwillowbrown.com, where you can find all kinds of things, the cookbook, you can find all kinds of freebies, you can really learn more about the lunar cycle process, the methodology that I was explaining earlier. And, of course, Instagram and TikTok, all that stuff, it's Dr. Willow Brown. And YouTube, go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, share, and definitely go to Sex Reimagined's channel as well and do that because we're building that up and it's a fun journey.
Well, I will have all those links in the show notes for the listener. And can you leave us with maybe one last health, wellness, sexual tip that we can consider adding into our life?
Slow down on all accounts. Slow down sexually, slow down in your life, slow down when you're eating, slow down when you're breathing, slow down. Yeah.
We'll work on implementing that this winter.
Yes, it's the perfect season for it.
It is. It is. Thank you so much for chatting. I could go on with you for hours. So we barely touched the surface of a lot of these topics. So I hope we really invited you, the listener, to now explore all these topics a little bit further because they just all add to your health and overall well-being.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Whitney. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much.